If I can change anything about my body, I'll have wings because I can fly to McDonald's. I would change my legs into a mermaid tail so I can swim like a mermaid.
I would change my legs, like my thighs, make them a bit slimmer.
I thought labia were like fingernails, like they had no sensation. So I tried to cut them off with kitchen scissors when I was 12.
At what age do we stop wishing for magical things for our body and start wishing to change body parts that function perfectly well to fit society's idea of beauty?
We all look completely different, and we shouldn't feel shame because media or society has given us this idea of what we should look like.
What started off as a vulva gallery has turned into a global movement helping people open up communication with sexual health and sexual education.
I don't want to change anything.
I'm Ellie Sedgwick, and welcome to Comfortable in My Skin. So today's podcast guest is my soul sister, my best friend, Stephanie. We have to...
Stephanie.
Annie. We have to try... We have to try really hard not to talk too much shit because we have spent our entire life talking shit together. So we're going to try and keep it real for you guys. Steph, I'm glad that you brushed your hair for this episode. Steph's dad always says, Steph, you'll never get a boyfriend if you don't brush your hair. One thing about Steph.
Podcast is not getting me a boyfriend, apparently.
You're not going to walk out of here with a boyfriend. So Steph's story today, she's got a lot, but her story that we're going to be covering today is Steph was one of the 4 Aussies that was lost at sea in Indonesia. You're on your surfboard for paddling for 37 hours straight. And, oh, God, I'm already crying. I was like, no crying.
Oh, the tears. The tears are coming already.
So we want to talk about the inner warrior, the survivor, what went through your head, how you felt during that 38 hours, but maybe we'll rewind a little.
For sure.
And we'll let everyone get to know you a little bit, fall in love with you like I do every day. I just think you're so wonderful. And when you were missing, something I said to your mum while you were missing every day was, not only will she survive, she will thrive. If anyone would love this adventure, it's going to be Steph. You're the kind of person that whenever we travel, Steph and I have done many overseas trips, you get something like a shoestring book. What one normal person would do one thing from the book a day, you do 3. She'd do
Chicken boxes.
Tick one waterfall onto the next waterfall to the next waterfall.
Oh, fully.
So if anyone was going to survive out there, it was always going to be you.
I did have a lot of people say that, which is very flattering. So, yeah.
So you were on the trip with your partner and 11 boys.
Yes.
I was actually there the night you met Elliot.
That was such a rogue night. Are we going to go back to that?
Well, let's start with that.
Yeah.
We were doing what you, me, and our other best friend Soph always do, which is sit and play truth or dare with each other.
Drinking games and truth or dare.
Yeah, which usually ends up with just the 3 of us daring each other to hook up with one of the other people. I dare you to hook up with Soph. Let's
film it.
Film it. Strip. I dare you to strip.
Oh, and that's right. And then when we left, we were going to the rails. It was a Battle of the Bands night. And we were walking down to the rails and we ran into a guy and started stripping him on the street.
We dared each other to strip him, and it turned out to be one of Elliot's friends.
It was Elliot's housemate, Ben, legend. And then once, he was just like, what is this whirlwind?
Yeah.
And then he called Elliot. Elliot was like, so surfed out and just drained. And Dan called in and he's like, you got to get down here, man. There's these like 3 wild chicks here. So Elliot was like, oh, fine. And ended up there. And he didn't go near us all night. And he's told me, I don't actually remember that much.
Yeah, so Elliot didn't come anywhere near us. All we know is that a lot of people listening will remember this night because a journalist happened to photograph me and Sophie in the pouring rain.
Biggest storm of the year.
Biggest storm of the year. We were dancing in the rain as per, and they captioned it on the front of the newspaper. The rain won't stop these schoolies. We're like 33-year-olds, like face
playing in the gutter.
Playing in the gutter. So a lot of you will know the night that Steph and Elliot met. Soph and I had just been kicked out
I had no memory of you guys being kicked out. I'm just like sweaty in the mosh pit being like, no, I wonder where they've gone.
And then Elliot came up to Steph.
He finally worked up the courage to approach because he was like, you were just a whirlwind. Like,
I think a lot of people feel that. They're a bit scared of me, Steph and Soph, when we're in the building.
Swim, we're together.
We walk in and people are like, nope.
I'd rather not.
Rather not engage with that, whatever that is. But Elliot finally built up the courage and came up to you and said, feel like doing something wild.
Do you want to do something wild? And yeah, I must have been like, absolutely, let's go. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah. Yeah. So then the trip was celebrating his 30th birthday. So move on. So move forwards 2 years. And this whole trip to Indonesia was to celebrate Elliot's 30th birthday. So it was me and it was 11 of his closest guy friends. And at first I was very reluctant and I needed a bit of convincing. Elliot was pretty adamant I came. He was like, you're mates with my friends. And then when I found out the decision was to go to a private island in the Banyaks, so Indonesia off Sumatra. So we hired out the entire surf camp basically. And I was like, oh no, if the boys are being rowdy and drinking and carrying on, I can just go to the other side of the island and be by myself and swim and lay in a hammock and drink coconuts. And so for me, it seems like the perfect rest and reset as well as a fun adventure because I'd had a pretty turbulent start to the year. So I was like, you know what, maybe I do need this. So, yeah, decided to jump on board with the boys.
Steph and the 11 boys. Yeah, why had you had a turbulent year?
Ooh, we're going to go deep. So, yeah, being pretty vulnerable right now. A lot of my friends and family don't really know what the start of the year looked like for me. What better way to talk about that on a podcast?
Here's the dark side to Steph.
So I'd had almost back-to-back 2 pregnancy terminations at the start of the year, which it's really brutal because not only does it come at you physically, like it has a massive toll on your body and your hormones, but it also really comes at you like mentally and spiritually and emotionally. And yeah, I guess I carried guilt and shame around our decisions to not go through with either of the pregnancies. I had a lot of friends around me who were struggling to conceive, who had miscarried. It's really hard to talk about, you know, me having this like gift presented to me and deciding, no, the time's not right. So I did keep it under wraps. I'm okay with it now. I've really like done the processing and the work around it and I'm okay with it now. But it was quite rough. So Indonesia was, you know, a chance to get away from it all and just like reset and do something for myself as well. So I saw Indo as a chance to rest and reset and just do something for myself. Universe had other plans, apparently.
Rest, disconnect.
Rest, recharge. Not quite the opposite.
They gave you a social media disconnect. You don't have social media.
It was a
technology ban.
Yeah. What is it? A cleanse, a technology cleanse? Because I'm so bad with technology.
Steph has never used
highly addicted
Instagram. She's never had a page.
No, until now.
Until I made her one while she was missing at sea.
Follow me. There's a lot of action on that page.
Did you know that the average person with a period uses up to 200 pads or tampons a year? This is actually a huge problem as they contribute to 200,000 tonnes of period products ending up in landfill every year in Australia alone. But there's a better solution to this and it's called HeyZomi. HeyZomi is a reusable menstrual disc. And no, it's not another period cup. The disc collects menstrual fluid internally, but it has so many other perks. It's made of medical grade silicone and is super soft and comfortable. You can't even feel this thing once it's inside your body. It inserts similar to a tampon, and it tucks up behind your pubic bone, sitting right under your cervix. Cups use the suction and sit on the vaginal canal. The Hayzomi website has great videos with anatomical model to show you the difference here. It is suction-free, unlike cups, and holds more fluid, allowing you to leave it in all day without leaks. And because it doesn't use suction to stay in place, it makes a great option for those of you with IUDs. The sister duo Zoe and Micah, founders of Hayzomi, felt that period care was just not meeting the lifestyle needs. Don't you agree that the products we have had to rely on are inconvenient and most often uncomfortable? Hayzomi is all about redefining period care so you can have your period on your terms. How much do we actually spend on period care these days? Too much, right? You can reuse the discs for up to 5 years, saving you so much money. All you need is one Hayzomi disc for your whole period, every period. Something I really love about the disc is that you can even empty the disc without having to remove it. It's so great because now I'm not stuck in a public bathroom trying to figure out how to empty and rinse this thing before a stranger walks in and catches me mid-crime scene. And another oh my God moment for this period care is that now you can have period sex completely mess-free whilst using the Hayzomi disc. I don't have a problem with red lube during sex, but I also love that you can keep the sheets white and have a mess-free period pleasure with this stealthy little disc. And so now there's actually nothing you can't do while wearing the Hayzomi disc. Swimming, marathons, scuba diving, anything, it's all on the table. Head to hayzomi.com to find out more or follow Hayzomi on their Instagram to learn all about having your periods on your terms.
Anyway, so that was all my thought processes around going to Indo, and that's how I ended up going on the trip. And me and Elliot started off just us two, so we didn't want to just like dive headfirst into the rowdy boys, surf trip. So we started in Sumatra. We went into the jungle and did a 2-day overnight orangutan trek and immersed ourselves in some nature. And that was like a really beautiful way to kick off the trip. And then we headed down to the coast and went to a place called Soraki in the Gundri Bay and had about 5 days of just surfing. Yeah.
Heaven.
It was great. It was scary. Like this massive swell hit about 2 days before we got there. And so we were on the back end of that swell and it was still really big. So, I had a lot of time in the ocean just sort of connecting to it and having a deep reverence for how powerful the ocean is in Indonesia. And we surfed. It was terrifying, but it was fun and it was a great way to start off the trip, but we were pretty exhausted beforehand. And then we traveled across. The boys started filtering in, and then I think there was maybe 8 of us, and then we journeyed from Soraki across the island of Nias and, on the morning of the incident. And, I just want to say that the story from start to finish it's long. It's, it takes me about 2 hours to do it. And I think I'm going to tell it the best to my ability. I'm not going to go start to finish, but I think almost as a coping mechanism, the brain starts to forget because it is a lot hazy. So when you go through something quite traumatic, I think your brain does begin to block it out. So I'm going to do my best to sort of retell the story.
Yeah.
And I will skip over a bit. So, it'll be long story short for a lot of it. Yeah. So basically we traveled across the island of Nias. And I just want to say that I checked my period tracking app and was not one bit surprised to see that it was going to be hot and heavy when I was on the island with the 11 boys and me. So I was like, perfect.
Steph and I have this joke that our period will not miss a special event.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to a bush doof.
Loves a doof. Has severe FOMO. Cannot miss out on a thing.
Actually, a funny story is when Elliot and Steph were at a doof, he looked down one day.
We'd known each other for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. And I got like the mother of all periods. I just had COVID and I don't know, it did something. But I had this like raucous period. And we were in the car one morning and there's just like blood everywhere, and there was blood on his foot, and he's like, how does blood end up on my foot? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, it's like your first period ever. It's like you're 14 years old and you just can't control this beast.
It's so funny that like 'cause the night that Steph and Elliot hooked up was the first night, and then they both got COVID, so they spent the 2 weeks isolating at my house.
Yeah.
And so that
At the
was
lake.
at the lake.
Dreamy.
Yeah. So they got to know each other really well.
We moved quickly. Yeah.
And 2 weeks into it, you get your period on his foot
At the bush door.
at the bush doof. And he's just like,
He got to know me very quickly. He's like, you're rogue.
You are gross. Steph and I's
Not
favorite.
gross. He loves it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think
Loved
it's
it.
gross because I'm equally.
He
like-
actually took it like a champ. He found it very funny. Some guys are wigged out by that, but
because we both free bleed.
occasionally, yeah.
Occasionally on purpose, occasionally accidentally. We find period blood in places we're like, how did that get there?
Oops.
Oops, I bled on your pillow.
On your foot.
Oh, I bled on your foot. Sorry, me again.
Yeah, good.
Me again, bleeding on your foot. We love to quote King Julian. Me again.
All right, we're getting very distracted.
Okay. Back.
Back. We're back.
So we were not surprised at all to hear that Steph had her period.
So the period came the night before, the day before the incident. So I would have been on my second day, the day we journeyed across the island. And so in the morning, right before we left, it was quite a long voyage or like car trip. And I put a tampon in at probably like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning, say.
This is the tampon.
This is the tampon.
The tampon. The tampon that came out to
one.
sea with you.
Yeah.
So you put it in at 10 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock in the morning. And so we're journeying across Nias. We've got, I think it was a 2 or 3 car convoy full of the boys, and the boys are constantly stopping. It's so different to a girls' trip. The boys are like fried chicken and bintangs every 45 minutes. So, and then we get about halfway, we stop at this little side of the road shack, and they're all drop toilets, and Elliot comes with me. I'm like, can you hold me up while I pee? So I'm like hot monkey grip with his hands, and he's holding me up over this drop toilet, and I'm peeing. And then I'm like, okay, this is my opportunity to change my tampon. And then we hear these little giggles, and I'm like, what is that? And look through the little wooden cracks. There's just this crack, and there's these 2 little boys. You can just make them out through the cracks, and they're like, like giggling at me. And I was like, no, I cannot change my tampon right now.
I would have loved to have seen you do that one-handed, holding Elliot's arm with one hand.
You boys want to show?
And this is how you pull out a tampon. Swing it round.
Yeah. So little did I know that was my one and only opportunity, because we go to this little, it's like a backyard harbour. It's not even, there's nothing legitimate about it. And yeah, basically we're all excited. So you're not really thinking about anything except catching up with people. We're, 2 hours from our island. So yeah, we're all frothing, and just they load our board bags into 2 boats. I think about 8 people jumped into the first one with a couple of board bags, and then the 4 of us jumped into the second boat. It just was pure chance that we jumped on last, and we had most of the board bags with us. So and then we set off, and, since being in Sumatra, it had stormed every day. So, it was actually quite calm and sunny when we left at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was storms on the horizon, like clouds, but if you thought too much about that, you'd never go anywhere, because it's that tropical climate where almost like clockwork, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a storm hits. So we just
trust the people taking you.
Yeah, we were just passengers. They were taking us, they were part of the island, staff team, and they were just taking us over to the island, and we were just, customers, really. So we jumped on the boats and off we went.
And so how long would the trip have taken had you gotten from there to the island?
Yeah, so it was meant to be a 4 o'clock departure for a 6 o'clock arrival. It was meant to be a 2-hour trip. Yes, to the island.
And you're literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so we're going from Nias up to the Banyak archipelago, which is like a chain of islands. So it is open water. So in hindsight, the boats we were on, not meant to be doing a crossing like that, really. No match for a storm. No match for a storm. So off we go, and it's calm, it's chill. At the start, I'm like about to pull out my favorite very smart book. Love me some smart.
Oh,
Almost
very
started
smart.
reading. Yeah. Almost started reading. So that you can imagine it was quite chill, but I didn't because the boys were getting to know each other. Jordan and Will were only just starting to meet. Will had lots of stories to tell of his adventures. He hadn't seen the ocean in months, really. He'd been going up through the centre of Australia and rock climbing and things like that. So, yeah, he just arrived, not much sleep because he'd been travelling, and it is quite a long transit from Australia and then straight into a boat, basically. And Will's Elliot's best friend. So, they had a lot to catch up on. So the first hour was calm. I was like dangling my arm in the water in the wake of the boat because you're very low in these fishing boats. They sit low, they're wooden, they've got like a roof over the top of the passengers and then the front's exposed and then the back's open. So I had a big open window next to me. And after maybe an hour or so, you start noticing that the storm clouds are kind of closing in on you. You could see them in the distance. You could see them out to sea. You could kind of see them behind us. It was like a big storm cell. And I was a bit like, oh, shit, here comes a storm. Cool. I was also like, oh, shit, I need to change my tampons soon as well. So the storm was kind of like my second worry. But, yeah, so the sea started getting a bit rougher, and I looked towards Artie. So there was 3 crew along with us 4. There was Artie, Fifan and Iqbal. Iqbal was the captain, Fifan was the young deckhand, and then Artie, he was sort of like our guide and the one that could speak English. And he was beautiful, really. Like, he was more solid than the other 2 and spoke English and just like a really bubbly, cheeky, that classic like cheeky Indonesian nature. So I would look at him and he'd be like, oh, shit, at the storm. So, I was like, it's all good. Like, he's still laughing and stuff. And then as the storm started really closing in on us, we were obviously like, okay, this is not good. But he was always like, we've been in bigger storms, and always comforting us. So the swell started picking up and the boat started really bouncing. And as the swell started picking up, it was like the captain was trying to outrace the storm. So we really picked up our pace. So we were really coming up and hitting down, like slamming down onto the water really quite hard. And
that's never a good feeling.
No, it was like painful. I was like, bang, like slamming down on my butt onto the seats. And then it started raining, then it started getting really windy, and then, the storm just kind of like swallowed us. And at first it was pretty thrilling. Like, it was quite exhilarating. I love a storm.
This is what I mean. Like, Steph loves this shit. This is why I knew you'd survive. It was thrilling.
Yeah, it was. It was.
We love it. Like, make the boat go faster, make the boat go wilder.
But then it started getting pretty serious, and we'd lost sight of the other boat. They were behind us because they probably had more weight. And we were going really quite quick. And initially there was talk of taking shelter in the mangroves, but the crew must have made the decision to keep going to punch on through the storm. So
did the other boat make that decision to go into the mangroves?
They had, yeah. They made that call.
That's why. Yeah.
They had a more experienced captain.
Okay.
Yeah, and he knew to make that call. But we kept going faster. And then the boat started deteriorating around us, basically. So
bits were falling off.
Like the railing at the front snapped and was just like hanging on by one little hinge. And then we hit another wave and the perspex window sort of behind my head cracked. And, it started getting serious. And I was like, Elliot, I really need a toilet. I'm freaking out. And I looked at him and he's like white, like wide-eyed and white. And I was like, oh, shit, maybe I have bigger concerns than like a leaking tampon right now. And he just looks at me and goes, I really don't fucking like this shit, hey. And Elliot's very calculated and likes to be in control. Like he does a lot of, all the boys on the boat do like rock climbing and they're into skydiving and things like that, all the three of them. But, you know, it comes back to, so they like high risk activities, but they're also calculated and like take the right safety protocols. So when they're out of control, like Elliot was like, I feel so out of control. I can't do anything to help us right now. So he was almost the worst in this situation.
You knew by looking at him because he knew he was in danger.
It's okay. You're fine.
Naive Steph. She's like, I'm bleeding.
There's blood everywhere. There's blood on the walls.
He's like, I'm sick of your blood on my foot, on the boat walls. Not now, babe.
Not now. Now's not the time. Yeah. And so then we looked back towards the Indonesians to sort of gauge how they were. And when we would turn around, they'd be like, it's okay, it's okay. But you could see they were sort of flailing their hands around like this.
Did they have any safety things like a radio?
All they had was a few life jackets and not even enough for everybody on board.
Wow.
So there was a few life jackets and we realised pretty quickly that they were using a phone for GPS, so no EPIRBs, no flares, no nothing. It was just literally us and a mobile phone in the open ocean. So
the reception?
No, they lost reception. So, yeah, we lost reception in the storm. I'm sure if it was a clear day, it would have been fine, but it wasn't. And so that was our only GPS and they're like, we've dropped out of reception entirely. So
I don't even know which way they're going.
We come to the realisation that we don't know where we are. No one knows where we are. We don't know where the island is. So we're like out in a storm in the ocean and we're just entirely alone.
And your boat's falling to pieces.
And the boat's falling apart. And then the swell picks up even more and the waves start coming into the boat. So I'm sitting right next to the window and I'm claustrophobic. So the boy's like, Steph, get away from the window. The waves are like going over you. And I was like, no, this is my escape route right here.
You'd rather be drowned in the ocean.
I'd rather be in the ocean.
You'd rather be in the ocean than claustrophobic in a boat.
Yeah. Well, if you get trapped in the boat, you're gone. The boat was the scariest part of the whole incident.
A few of you say that. I know Mitch says.
Yeah. Even the boys in the other boat were like, that was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. So yeah, it's chaos.
Was it loud? Was there loud noises going off everywhere?
Like the engine and like, you know, you had to speak to pretty loud, howling wind, electrical storm. It was pretty chaotic on the boat. Yeah, tensions were definitely high. And so the waves started coming in and basically filling the boat up with water. And we started realising it was bad and we had some bananas in a Tupperware, like, fuck them off. What are these bananas doing on a boat? Bad luck. So we started.
Really could have used those on
food. Yeah, fully. Didn't think about that. And so we started bucketing water out, but the water was coming in and quicker than we could bucket it. And yeah, so we started basically preparing ourselves that we were going to sink. By this stage, it was dark. We'd probably had been in the storm for an hour. So we should have arrived by now. We should have arrived before it got dark, but now it's getting dark. And I fully saw a mirage of the island. It was like our first hope. And I was like, yes, we've made it. And was like celebrating. Will saw it as well. I can't remember who else saw it. And I was like, the island's there, the island's there. And we're like looking for it. Blinked and it was gone. So that was the first of many heartbreaks. I couldn't believe my eyes were playing tricks on me like that.
Wait, so you were hallucinating?
I don't know if I was hallucinating.
Mirage
but
means
like
hallucinating?
A mirage. It was like what your eyes want to see. It was so strange. I was so adamant it was there and then it just vanished. So many things just vanished. There was a lot of, like things were presented to you and then taken away from you the whole time. It was like we were in a game.
So at this stage, once you couldn't see the island, all you could see was ocean, 360 everywhere you looked.
Everywhere, pitch black, ocean. And then one big wave came in and that's when Elliot was like, everybody get the fuck out now. I think I had just put a life jacket on. The boys didn't and the 3 Indonesians put life jackets on. And Elliot turned and like what you do when you're scuba diving, he basically flipped out the window and as he flipped, he grabbed my life jacket and like threw me out. Will pushed me at the same time. So I was like, pew, and went like flying out into the water. And then we're in the water And the boys were incredible. They were so quick thinking. And Jordan ran up through the center of the boat and started pulling out one board bag. And then the boys, Will and Elliot, swam to the front of the boat, climbed back on and managed to pull out 2 more board bags before it flipped. So we didn't get all of them, but those 3, their quick thinking in the moment, probably saved our lives. The fact that they got those 3 board bags out, because had we not had them, I don't know that we would have been able to be that long in the water.
How many boards were in each board bag?
About 3
in each bag. So you all of you had a surfboard to lay on.
So no, this is like the first night we didn't. Yeah, we'll get to that. But once we all had something to lay on for the first night. So once we were in the water and the boat flipped, basically we had done a few things prior to that. Like I'd put on a long sleeve top. Me and Jordan sculled some honey. We all drank some water, and then that was prior to the boat flipping. So we actually did prepare ourselves to go into the water. And then you're in the water and it's so surreal. You're like, oh my God, like the boat has sunk in the middle of the ocean. It's the wildest feeling. But once I was in the water, a sense of calm came over me. I don't know, I'm so familiar with the ocean.
You and me are water baby.
Yeah.
I feel safer in the ocean than anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it was like this. And the water was warm at this stage. So warmer than the air because of the storm and the rains and the wind. So it was like this warm, like it's almost like a weighted blanket, those like anxiety blankets. So I was like, oh my God, thank God we're in the water.
So did you have any food and water with you?
So Elliot was throwing things over and we grabbed a few things. I know one of the Indonesians grabbed some biscuits. They ate some biscuits I could not have eaten. I was beyond hunger. I had like a comfortable in my skin bottle that you had given me, which I'd filled up at 10 o'clock that morning. So it had that much in it. So I didn't drink anything that night. I was like, we need this. So no one drank. I think Jordan had 1 sip of water at one point.
Yeah, because he was vomiting. I remember you telling me.
He vomited and then washed it down. But yeah, so basically I won't go into it too much, but we pretty much came together and made like a raft, but we were all of us except for Elliot were seasick. Jordan did like a tactical vomit at the start and he was pretty good. I think it's Elliot's ability, he's really into his breath work and his ability to just calm himself in stressful scenarios stopped him from vomiting. But Will was the first to like go badly and then me, and we were violently ill all night. It was the hardest night of my life, the longest, hardest, most uncomfortable, agonizing night of my life by far.
So you were just sick all night.
So if you lay back, if you're horizontal, you're actually okay. So we would try and get into positions where we could be horizontal. The minute you sat up, even to open the board bag out, we wanted to grab a towel out to keep the wind off us, you would start gagging instantly, even Elliot, like everybody. So we were trying to find ways to be horizontal. Sometimes I would swim away. Oh, I had to swim away and like yank out my tampon. I was like, that's been in there for way too long. See ya.
You polluter.
Oh, dude, you should have seen how much everything was in the ocean. Every single thing on that boat.
For those who don't know Steph, she's spent her entire life being a planet warrior.
Eco warrior.
She's the biggest eco warrior in the world.
That was hard, pulling that tampon out. But then I look at everything floating around and I was like, well, what's one more piece of fucking rubbish?
Steph would buy a new item of clothing like once every 3 years. You will not have plastic, like all of her food products.
Remember our Queensland trip where you're like, I just want to buy some cherry tomatoes in a plastic thing. I was like, no.
Yeah.
It was like our only blow up.
We had a fight over it because I like the cherry tomatoes to come in the thing and she's like, no plastic. So
I've eased up a bit now.
Yeah. No, it's the best thing about you. And that's why it was so sad that all of your belongings sunk, because you only own very few things that you have sought out that are like organic. People joke, be like, all Steph wears is denim shorts and a singlet. And I'm like,
that's all I need.
That's all she needs. If it's not broken, don't buy new clothes. And you'd taken on that trip your few
my favorite things,
items, and then they all just sunk.
Yeah. Least of your worries.
Least of your worries, yes.
But yeah. And I guess those are the materialistic things in life that later I was a bit like, but at the time, all of that is so insignificant. Yeah. So I went away, tampons gone, we're free bleeding now.
So wait, did you just swim away?
I just swam
Did you
away.
announce that you were doing that or you just...
No, I didn't need to announce. Hey, everybody.
Well, I'm just wondering, were you like in a circle and you were all like, was anyone saying...
Well, it was dark and chaotic. So if I would kind of swim away a little bit because it was actually, the energy was very intense. People heaving and like gagging and whimpering and praying. So I would actually remove myself a little bit.
And I guess the Indonesians didn't speak English.
Artie did.
But
and
the two others.
Very basic. Iqbal and Fifan, they were, speaking very...
They were praying in Indo.
They were praying to Allah in Bahasa, I guess. Yeah.
So that would have been quite...
It was, yeah. And just the whimpering and the praying, it was really hard to hear. And I really sympathise for them because, like I said, once I was in the ocean, I was calm. They are boat people, but probably not ocean people. Artie's a surfer, so he was fine.
Yeah.
But the other two really struggled in the water. Yeah, really, really struggled. And it was very hard to hear. So I would go away every so often. And one time I went away and I was like, just like going like this and I don't throw up. And I looked and the phosphorescence around me was just like starlight flames. And I'm there going, are you guys seeing this? Everyone's over there like that. Yeah.
I can just vision you diving like a mermaid and just seeing the phosphorescence.
Yeah. So there was glimpses of beauty that night, but not much. It was really tough. And that night we're like, we just got to get through the night. And me and Elliot were on a board bag together sharing one and we would be trying to balance and Elliot's trying to breathe through it. And I'm like there trying to get horizontal and like laying on it and my hips would be like overextending. So like the pain through my hips was so intense. And then I'd fall off because it was really tippy and Elliot would be like, fucking stay still. And I'd be like, you don't have to be so mean. He's like, sorry. He wasn't as sympathetic as I think he wishes he was in that moment. Because I was like, you know what, this sucks for me as well. Like we all are not having fun right now. But it was a bit of tough love, I think, as well.
Yeah. Did he treat you differently being his partner to, say, Will and Jordan?
Probably. But in that moment, he was trying so hard not to be sick. So it was, yeah. It was a really, really hard night. But we were all together and, yeah, it was so hard even to speak. We were trying to signal with a flashlight and I think the storm was so intense. We were like, we just need to get through tonight. I don't think anyone's looking for us right now. All the other boats we later found out that were in that area had taken shelter. So
you were the only one out?
Yeah. So there was the boat. Once it had flipped, the Indonesians had grabbed a rope and they had helped. They were holding on to the rope and then Elliot was holding on to the rope as well. So this was actually keeping us quite anchored because you could see in the distance like some lights and they were like a glow and you could actually see a beacon. So that beacon showed us that we weren't actually drifting too far and then we were sort of anchored off from the boat. And then in the early hours of the morning...
Because you would have been able to dive down tomorrow and get all the water and the food that was on the boat.
Yeah, that was the plan. We're like, let's just get through the night. When it's light, we can maybe look for the boat for water. Maybe there'll be food in there. Who knows, warm other things and, stay with the boat. Early in the morning, once we'd gotten through most of the night, I was like, oh, so who's holding on to the boat? And just a language barrier, communication breakdown. Elliot thought, I think Elliot thought Iqbal was holding on to it. Iqbal thought Elliot was holding on to it and they had both let go. So that was our first major fuck up. We had let go of the boat. And when we looked around, we could not see the beacon. We could not see anything. So now we're just drifting. Losing the boat, when I realised that we had let go of the boat, I was like, this is bad. That could have been saving our lives. We could have had water. We could have had food. And now we had drifted completely off course. We could not see anything. We couldn't see the beacon. The beacon meant we were probably close to land. The glow was like we were probably not too far from land and now you could not see anything. So that was devastating.
Yeah. And because you know that you can't have, if you don't have water for 3 days, you don't survive, your organs.
Yeah. You are thinking, how long can you actually survive without water? I know you can go quite a while with food. Food was never a thought, but water was major.
Because what probably helped in the past is you've always fasted.
Yeah.
You've always done intermittent fasting. So
yeah,
that probably helped you.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that I've done. I mean, obviously first night you're not expecting to be out in the water for that long. So this is still just like us hoping that we're going to get rescued on the first day.
But in the moment that you realised they'd let go of the rope, did you think, fuck, that was our water supply?
Yeah, I was like, that was a huge fuck up. That was heartbreaking. So now this is the first morning, and there's something about once the sun came up, even though we could not see the sun coming up, it was like a dimmer just turned on. We could not see any, like, further than about 30 meters in any direction because the storm was still going. It was an intense storm. So we didn't know which way north or anything was, and we spoke with Artie, and he basically told us with the direction of the ocean currents, we are drifting probably out into the middle of the Indian Ocean. So we had to make a decision in that moment. Oh, and once it's light, there's something, it must be sensory deprivation or something. Once your eyes can focus, we were no longer seasick. As soon as it got light, everyone stopped throwing up. So that was great. And then we had to make a very, very tough decision on what we were going to do now. Artie gave us some information thinking if you paddle for 3 hours roughly in that direction, you'll reach land. So this was a hunch. We had no idea what direction was what. And the boys were adamant. They were in their masculine. They're like, we got to do something. I was a bit more like, guys, like really on a hunch. Yeah, stay together. But they were just like, we can't just be sitting ducks here. We can't. And us staying together and floating was completely reliant on somebody else, some external factor coming and rescuing us. So we didn't even know if anyone knew we'd sunk. People probably assumed we were in the mangroves, or we didn't even know if the other boys had made it. We assumed they probably sank as well. We had no idea if anyone even knew that. And you speak to people and they're like, oh, when we didn't show up, they're like, oh, they're just out of petrol and all sorts of things. So we're like, can we afford to just not even try? So we decided to paddle and we all got onto boards.
So you opened up the board bags.
We opened up the board bags. We grabbed some gear and we basically divvied everybody aboard. I was like to Artie, because I couldn't properly communicate with Iqbal and Fifan, and I was like, why don't you guys float? Because once I watched them get onto a board and saw how they were on a surfboard, I was like, oh, fuck, this is like, they're not surfers. But he was adamant. He said they want to paddle. And I was like, I can't tell grown men what to do. And in that situation, there is no right or wrong. You have no idea what to do. Like I was like, what do you do? I think you need to make a choice and you need to believe in it. That's the only right thing you can do.
And no idea how you're going to act in that situation, because so many people that I was speaking to were like, why didn't they all stay together? Everyone knows when you get rescued, you stay together. And I'm like, no, there's no.
Yeah, no one was even looking for us. Like we found out that things happened. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but it was the other captain of the other boat and a random catamaran legend, Richo, the only people out looking for us. So, yeah, we made a decision to try and paddle to save our own lives, to save everybody's lives. And we also thought, we left the 3 Indonesians together and the 4 of us went. So we also thought, having 2 separate groups, maybe that does double our chances of being found, So and the plan was to go paddle. Artie told us maybe 3 hours paddling to the island. We go there, we raise the alarm, send a boat back. Then there's people looking for them. How do you know what to do? I've been a bit frustrated by people having such strong opinions sitting in the comfort of their own homes behind a keyboard. Like, have you ever been lost in the ocean for an extended period of time in a storm? Like, until you have, I don't really think that you should be making judgments.
No, but keyboard warriors love their opinion on the internet.
Oh my God, everyone needs an opinion. Hey, like if you have been in that scenario, absolutely, I'll listen to your advice, or people that are trained in that area. But yeah, it's just really, really easy to sit and judge people's decisions. So we left, we paddled, and I'm going to go through the day really quickly, but like there was funny moments. Jordan caught a fish, like with his hand, a flying fish flew into his hand. I gave this nut to Elliot and a crab ran out and sat on his shoulder and stayed with him his entire journey. We spotted, so my heart wasn't in the paddle initially. I was like, we haven't slept, we haven't drunk, we haven't eaten, we've been throwing up all night and we're paddling in a hunch. I was like, we could just be paddling to our deaths right now. So I was kind of paddling. Elliot's pushing me and he's like, come on, Steph, why do you keep veering off to the right? I was like, I don't know. I just want to go that way. And he's like, we're going this way. We've made the group decision. So we're paddling and he's pushing me.
Relationship argument.
Domestics.
You didn't even care if you went right or left. You're like, I'm going right.
I just don't want to go the way you're going.
I have a hunch.
And then I was like, that's why I'm going this way. Look. And we caught sight of land.
Where you wanted to go.
The way I was going.
My girl.
I know.
That feminine pussy energy.
Yeah.
Your pussy wanted to go that way.
So that was about probably 3 hours after paddling.
I hate to say it, but women are always right.
We're intuitive beings. And so, yeah, we caught sight of land. It was minuscule. It was like this little grey bump on the horizon, but we celebrated. We were like, yes. Drank some water. I took off my long sleeve top and I put like I had like a rash vest sperm suit thing on.
In the photos. If you're watching, I'm going to put it up on.
Watching. Oh my God. Yeah. So we, then I got like a second wind of energy. I was like going hard. I actually had to slow myself down because I was like, calm down, Steph. That's probably like a whole day's paddle away.
Dude, I paddle out the back for like 3 ways and I'm like cooked. The fact that you were paddling, I remember you told me when we called, you were like, I've been paddling 7 hours, then rest, then 7 hours and rest. And I'm like, 7 fucking hours of paddling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We probably paddled for all up, I don't know, maybe just under 20 hours or something like that.
Dude, the strength.
We paddled and a lot happened that day. I mean, there's not time. I feel like what we were saying before, there's a lot of things that I've done in my life that have made me physically strong, but also mentally resilient. Like me and Elliot started our own little side hustle business, Fire and Ice, where we were doing saunas and ice baths. Ice bath, yes, it strengthens your body, but it's more the mental gains and like that mental strength is really something that you can tap into in these scenarios that I felt like I had a strong foundation for that. I've been doing like playing with fasting for 10 years now.
Yeah, Steph, intermittent fasts every day.
Yeah. Oh, not every day, but like I definitely have done long ones. I've done short ones. I've just, taught my body to be able to manage through discomfort. And
you had insomnia for 3 years.
3 years of insomnia will teach you sleep deprivation and how to get through that.
Would you say that the insomnia was worse than the accident?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the accident was traumatic and very intense for 40 hours, but put me in the water before giving me 3 years of insomnia any day. That broke me. Yeah.
You almost died. That almost killed you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both almost killed me, but
I remember when we were living in the car for 6 weeks up in the Daintree forest and we'd wake up multiple times at 2 a.m. and you'd be on all fours with your head out the window because you can't breathe, having full panic attacks. Makes me sad.
Isn't it? Wild. It just goes to show you never know what somebody's going through because obviously after this really broadcasted incident that not many people have gone through, I had so many people reach out and check on me and it was beautiful, you know, the capacity of the human heart and just how much people care when they think they're going to lose somebody is wild. But 3 years of insomnia, you see that person and you're like, oh, I can't sleep. And people are like, oh, that sucks. You know, but it was like breaking me. And you see this person and they're still getting up and they're still going to work and they're there. And you never know what somebody's going through. You know, they could be going through the hardest thing of their absolute life and you would never know. You would never know. But when something like this happens, the whole world reaches out. So yeah, just be gentle with people. I think there's a massive lesson there. But back to it.
I just want to say something. I used to love when you had insomnia.
Thanks.
No. But I have so many beautiful moments. Like when someone's going through something so dark, I feel like it creates this like insane, like I feel insanely close to you, closer than most people. I feel like our connection's so deep. And we had so many nights when you couldn't sleep and we just lay in bed.
And you were so there. You were an anchor. You were like my rock, just having you there next to me.
And you told me that, because I mean, everyone knows I sleep like a fucking queen. And we'd face each other and you would in sync with my breathing.
Yeah.
So when I'd breathe in, you'd breathe in, or no, circular breathe with me. And then it would make you feel really safe in the middle of the night when your thoughts started getting really dark at like 2 a.m.
And just having someone that you love next to you is huge. You know, being alone at night, having insomnia is the most isolating, like you think the whole world's asleep and you're just there in like your own personal hell.
Yeah.
So horrible. If you know anyone with insomnia, then reach out to them because they're going through it.
Yeah. They were darker nights than Lost Out at Sea.
Yeah, especially the second night. We'll get to that very quickly, but very soon. But yeah, so anyway, that first day was just paddling, agony. And then Elliot was the strongest. This is another thing that people don't understand how we split up from Elliot. So Elliot was by far the strongest. He had the most endurance and he could paddle ahead of us. We'd lost sight of the island again, devastating again. But Elliot would paddle ahead of us and then in the time he waited for us to catch up to him, he would lose solid ground, like up to 1 kilometre because the ocean currents are so strong. So he was losing ground and every time that would happen, he would get more erratic, more panicky, going, shit, like, are we going to make land? We'd celebrated. We were like, we're going to make it. All we've got to do, we've got 8 hours to paddle to that, probably before the sun goes down. So he was getting more and more antsy every time. And, you know, we were struggling. I was on the biggest board. They're very chivalrous of the boys. Give the smallest person the biggest board.
And they say chivalry is dead.
Gentlemen.
Gentlemen, our boys.
So I was on the biggest board and still struggling to, you know, and we'd been paddling, we'd been surfing. So we were already in a lot of pain from just like the usual long surf session. So it was like knives going into my shoulders. It was agony and we'd have to paddle and stop and sit and then paddle and stop and sit. And so Elliot waited for us to catch up and goes, I've got to go. Elliot's mentality was, I'm our hope. It's if we don't make it, like I'm our chance of getting to the island at this point. With the way the other 3 of us were paddling, it wasn't looking good. So he was like, in this moment, he was erratic. He's like, Steph, I'm going to go. I'm going to paddle over that way and I'm going to use the currents to bring me back into the island instead of trying to paddle into them. And I was like, okay. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go. Bang. And he was gone.
Did he give you a huge kiss?
Nah.
Nothing.
It was because he'd waited so long for us to catch up to him. And I think he was just like.
He wasn't even thinking goodbye. He was just thinking, I'm going to save you.
I'm going to rescue them. So he went and his intentions were so good. But when I couldn't see him anymore, I was like, oh my God, there is a very good chance I will never see you again. There is a very good chance that was our goodbye. So that was hard.
Didn't even get a make out kiss. Back scratch.
Kiss me goodbye. One last tickle.
One last back tickle. Steph lives for back tickle.
Mm-hmm. But the strange thing is once that happened, once he was gone, you know how I said earlier, I was a bit like, and Elliot was pushing me? There was no room for that. There was no room for weakness. I was on the same level as the boys. My partner was gone. I couldn't lean on him anymore. So I just had to step the fuck up. And I was just like, all right, let's go.
I must say, like, I've had a few moments with Jordan and he's someone that I would love to be lost at sea with.
Yeah, he was a vibe.
Such a vibe.
He was an energy. Everybody was incredible. There was no Everyone was optimistic.
Well, Will also, I was at a fest subsonic with him. He's a great time. So you were lost at sea with some great guys.
Absolutely. And Jordan was that like real calm, but also like cracking jokes, sort of like funny. Will was great as well. He was a bit more of like the dark humor. He'd just be like, well, this is fucked.
I mean, if an alien left, it probably was more of like a lol. Like, I don't know.
Or
No? It was more
it
like.
was a bit like shit, Elliot's gone. But a lot did happen. Me and Will would just look at each other. We didn't even need to talk. It was just like, this is fucking bad.
You'll be connected forever with these boys.
Yeah. And then we kept trying to estimate how long it would take to get to the island. And, you know, it was the closer you got, the more intense the currents got. So we would get closer, but then we got to a stage where we weren't going to make it. And then we had another little shiny carrot dangled in front of us. A plane went over us. I was wearing a bright orange life jacket. It was cutting into my armpits so much. Like I wanted to take it off. I did not want to be wearing that life jacket. I was like, I can swim, like fine. So
but you thought that they might be able to see it.
It was bright orange. I thought they would be able to see it. So I wore it the whole time and this plane went up and over and we were splashing and screaming and losing our shit boards in the air and it just went straight past us. Like, okay, it's fine. Didn't even know if it was looking for us. Apparently it was looking for us.
It was a search plane.
Apparently it was a search plane. Yes, it was the search plane. But there's a bit of controversy around that. So I won't go into that now.
Save that for another day.
That's another day once I get my facts straight. I don't want to be going spreading vicious rumours. But yeah, we've had some pretty heavy stuff about that. So anyway, plane, we keep paddling. And then an hour and a half later that was about maybe 3 o'clock, an hour and a half later, the plane comes back over, nothing. So we're like, okay. So we start paddling for this island. Well, we've been paddling for this island for quite a long time now. It's getting later in the afternoon. And then Jordan goes, oh, I'm tripping. I'm absolutely tripping. So it's like, shit, gave him the big board. I looked at him and he's just blue-eyed, red-eyed. We'd been paddling into the spray the whole time. So we'd been copping water in the face the whole time. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, at the start it was still raining. So we actually were able to drink like a little bit of water off our hair. So we had a few, it was probably half salt, half fresh, but we had a few sips of water. And then around the middle of the day, the storm had died off. So it was calming down a bit.
Moment when you were drinking water drops from your hair. Did you feel like full Survivor woman, like Bear Grylls?
I was wearing this hat. I don't know what happened to the hat. I think I lost the hat. And I would pull it off my head and like try and sip some water off the hat, try sip some water off my hair. Yeah, I felt like a bad bitch.
Bear Grylls, Steph, Bear Weisse, Bear Weisse.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a lot's happening.
Were there any thoughts in your head at this moment that you were going to die, or you were still by the second?
Yes, because we had not seen a single boat. We had not seen a single boat, and the second night is coming. So you start thinking, how long can you go without water, especially when you have been throwing up all night, you haven't slept, you've been paddling all day, and you've got your period. Like, how long have I really got, realistically?
So that's the second night is when the dark thoughts sort of started creeping in.
It's like an internal war in your own head. There's almost two voices coming through. There's one that is the voice of reason. I wouldn't say it was like pessimistic. I would say it's more realistic in a sense that it's like you've got those thoughts. No one's looking for us. No one knows where the fuck we are. We haven't drunk water, that we haven't slept, and now we've left all the gear that was keeping us warm and afloat. How are we going to get through a second night? And the sun is dropping.
And Jordan's fucking tripping.
And Jordan's tripping. We lost Jordan now. My God.
Not Jordan's first time tripping.
Yeah. Not his first rodeo. Those thoughts come in, but then there's this other voice, and I wouldn't say it's denial. It's more defiance. It's like, fuck that. Like, no, shut the fuck up. You are not going to die. Like, you're not going to die out here. You're not ready to die. So there is like the voices are coming through constantly, and it's just like this little battle inside your own head.
Were there moments that you felt like weaker than the boys in this time?
No, I don't think so. No, I actually don't think so at all. at this point, I started when things were looking really bad, making these promises and trying to make a deal with the universe. Like, if you spare me, I'm going to do this better. I'm going to do that. I will, it was the people that started coming through to me. I realized how much the people mattered and how much I wanted to be better with them, how much I wanted to mend relationships. Say it's an ex who I, had a bad fallout with. Just release any negativity around my relationship, step up for the people that I love more, and just realizing how much the people matter and how much more I needed to be better for them in ways. And just asking the universe to spare me so that I could have a second chance to go do these things. And it's really hard to maintain those promises that you made with the universe as life does go on and you start, but life happens and you get busy again, but just trying to make that effort, and how much I realized that I thought so much about my mum, and I was like, I cannot die because I cannot do that to my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Like, my mum.
I know your mum.
And she had the biggest heart and so much love. And I just couldn't even imagine what losing me would do to her. And I just kept seeing her face. I kept seeing her getting bad news. And I was like, I cannot die. I can't do that.
You must just want to tell her you love her every day. And everyone should tell everyone they love every day. We're you and me.
Everyone. It's such a lesson there. Just what matters is the people.
This is probably a good time to start telling the story of your mum. I was the first person she called, and I was sitting out in, let me set the scene. I was sitting out in Karajini, which
I'm surprised you had phone reception.
Yes, so am I, because my mum had come over to visit. Look at Google Maps right now and see where Karajini is. It is.
I've seen it on a map.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And my phone rang, and Mum and I were on camp chairs, just sitting out in the red earth. And suddenly I go, it's Steph's mum. And your mum and I have had some deep conversations, like obviously when we were worried about you when you had insomnia. Steph, you've put many mums through a fair bit.
Through hell.
Every time something goes bad, like you've had some dark times, your mum and I speak every day. Yeah. And so I saw the phone call and I just
knew.
I just
something terrible.
knew. I looked at my mum and I said, it's Jill. Oh. And I answered the phone and put on loudspeaker, and it was, I cry every time thinking back. Your mum, I couldn't understand what she was saying. She was like, Steph's missing, Steph's gone. Or all I kept getting was Steph's gone, Steph's missing, Steph and Elliot, Steph and I couldn't really understand anything else. And Mum's just looking at me and I'm just looking at Mum, and like, I was like, is she dead? Like, I had no idea. I just straight away expected the worst. I could decode her. And finally she ended up saying that your boat was in a storm and you were missing. And it was without a doubt the longest 24 hours of my entire life. I cried from the second I understood what your mum was saying till the second you were found. And it was, my heart goes out to anyone who's lost someone and they don't know where they are. And of course, anyone who's lost someone. But
well, that was the thing.
We were just waiting to hear from you.
You guys are helpless. There's one thing, us being in the water, we were like, cool, we got to try and stay alive. We knew our mission, but to be at home, and I really sympathise.
And it was all over the news.
Yeah, for the people at home, just being like, cool, they're out in the water and I'm sitting here and I can't do a thing about it. I mean, people were amazing. People are checking the weather, calling boats, calling every single person they know that's ever been to that. Like, everyone snapped into action, but there's only so much people can do.
I had every single news channel calling me. And I was like, I'm so mad at laughing about the photo they chose to use of you. You're like at a bush tuff covered in glitter.
Mum's like, of course, the photo they use of you is you at a doof covered in dirt. Not having brushed your hair.
You'll never get a boyfriend if you don't brush your hair. Elliot's missing.
You're never going to get another one. Elliot's gone off by himself.
And it was unbelievable how I just looked at photos of you, and
it's pretty grim.
I know. It was so grim. You're telling me. You're telling me. Just sat there like staring at you. That's when my mum was like, Elle,
You got to stop, girl.
sit here and look at photos. I was like zooming in. Look at her eyes. This is seriously what I was doing. Look at her smile. This is us here. This is us here.
Awesome.
I know.
Enough.
She just laid there in head to
Putting my foot down.
She was like, we're going to the Star Show.
We're going to the stars.
That's when we went to the Star Astro night with Phil. Yeah. And Mum was like, you can lay here and look at photos of Steph, or you can go and look at the stars that she'll be looking at.
Yes.
And connect through the galaxy.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh my God, did I feel you.
Ellie, going.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good, pretty good. What's up?
You're on the podcast with me and Steph.
You're on air.
What? Oh, that's terrible. Wow, no warning at all. Just threw it at me. Wow, there you go. Hi, Steph. How are you?
Hello. I'm going good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. An amazing adventure you had at sea. Wow, that's just unbelievable. When Ellie told me what unfolded, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise, over the phone, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
So when I knew that you were missing Steph, I laid in bed and just looked at photos, so many of you, just videos, photos. I have thousands. We've been friends our whole lives. So it was just going through them. And my mum said to me, you can lay in bed and look at these photos of Steph, or you can go to Phil's Astro night and look at the stars, and you'll probably be looking at the same stars that she is, and you can try and connect with her and wish her love.
Wish her well.
Wish her well.
Wish upon a shooting star.
And Phil, can you tell us that night what was happening in the stars? Because both Steph and I, we both experienced and explained seeing the same thing, like a meteor shower.
Yeah, and look, I recall the night really well, because when you explained to me what had happened to Steph and the fact that you had the Astro show, and on that particular night, I do recall there was a really bright meteor that sort of entered the atmosphere and put on a really spectacular display, and both you and Steph witnessed that, through your later conversation. And that it's amazing when you consider you're both staring at the same event, miles apart. Steph adrift on a surfboard in a cold, dark sea, you in a warm, comfortable chair, Dale's Campground, Carragina, and yet there you are, both experiencing the same night sky event. And I guess that's the bond, the connection that you guys had throughout that entire ordeal, which is incredible when you consider, all that unfolded. And that was so on the night of your Astro session, Ellie, the Perseids meteor shower was put on a great display, and it peaks mid-August. And of course, it was August the 14th that you were there.
Yeah.
And then we had, and those meteors originate from the north, but that particularly bright meteor, it originated from the southern sky, and that's why it was quite memorable. It was outstanding. It wasn't part of Perseids because it originated from the south, and it was that one event that I do recall that was discussed between you two, and once again, under the circumstances, absolutely extraordinary.
Wow. Thank you for that.
The cosmos works in mysterious ways, I tell you.
Absolutely.
And then the next morning we woke up and Steph, you still weren't found. And so Phil took us to an Indigenous site, and he was like, I'm going to take you far away and just show you land and see how you can connect with nature. And Phil, that was so amazing. You took us on a big adventure, me and Mum.
Oh, that's so special.
Yeah, and once again, considering all that was unfolding, in your world, your connection with Steph, despite the fact that, Steph, what you were going through was a horrendous ordeal. It's the energy, the flow. I mean, it was an amazing place, certainly for you to be during that entire ordeal, Ellie, in Carragina, simply because of the deep connection that I think everyone experiences when they go into that ancient land. It's a really powerful place, and that site that we went to, once again, because in terms of visitors, it doesn't have any, so it's a really raw, untouched energy, which is quite overwhelming. And once again, considering what you were going through, incredibly impacting for you and your your mum and even myself, the fact that I was sharing that journey with you. Yeah, it's quite something.
Yes, it was such a special
And,
moment.
Yeah, an amazing place to be.
Karijini National Park.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, well, that site we went to, just absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How long have you lived at Karijini or been going there doing the Star Astro Night?
Well, look, I started going there on a regular basis in 1997, but with my show in 2007. So experienced many extraordinary things there, but I have to say nothing quite on the level that I shared with you on that particular night. With friend Steph. Going through that. Well, yeah, it's an incredible ordeal.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I guess, the message in all of that is, when the chips are down, look up at that beautiful starry night sky and all the pieces, will come together. So
that second night for me was like beautiful, stunning. It was magical.
That's the power of the cosmos. See?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all need to take more time to get out under that, cosmic canopy.
Look up.
Enjoy it and just connect with each other just through thought.
Yeah, and I felt connected to, even Ellie. I thought about everybody I loved and looking at those stars, and I was like, oh, when you're thinking about someone, they're looking at the moon. It was like that with the meteorite shower.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steph, I do remember quite vividly Ellie mentioning to me that she could sense an overwhelming power and overwhelming energy, during that night. So I guess that's proof, that that connection, it's real. It exists.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's so real.
For sure. Ellie was like, I could feel you. I knew you were out there still.
I knew you were alive.
Yeah.
I knew you were. I could feel you the whole time.
Here come the tears.
I could feel you.
Yeah,
We're connected.
And that's what you were saying, Ellie. I remember that very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
amazing
powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff.
Thank you for your words.
And Steph, the fact that you ended up in a good place, it certainly is great news.
Yeah. I'm very blessed.
Every time I look at her, I'm like, I'm so glad you're alive. I have these moments where I'm just staring at her and I'm like, okay, you're still here. You're here. I love you. Can I touch you?
You're still here.
Yeah. Not everyone gets a second chance, so I'm very lucky.
Yep.
She describes the night when she was there, like you were seeing phosphorescence everywhere. You were hallucinating and you were seeing mermaids, weren't you?
Yeah. All sorts of things, magical things were happening that night.
Yeah, I can.
Another realm. We pierced the veil, I think. We got taken somewhere so beautiful.
Yeah, extraordinary stuff. Really is. I mean, I certainly, have no idea what you went through, but I can kind of imagine it. But I'm sure that's something that's gonna, you must relive it every day. I'm sure.
Yeah, I can detach from it, but if I want to tap back into it, I can, and I'm not too traumatized by the whole thing, which a lot of people think I would be. And I think a lot of lessons and a lot of gratitude. And if I think about that second night, I'm like, wow.
It's an experience most people won't ever get.
Ever. Yeah, it changes your whole world, whole reality.
It would do. And in fact, the key word you said there, gratitude, the gratitude that you went through it and you came out and you're standing strong despite all of that. Incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks, Phil. I'll call you later.
Yeah, must fly. On the go. Anyway, thanks for the call. All the best, Steph, and keep up the great work, Ellie.
Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
Bye,
Thank
Phil.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, okay, let's get to that second night. We were getting closer to the island, but the sun is setting behind it. So I am like paddling. I actually paddle away from the boys because I'm back on the bigger board and I'm just like going for it. I was like, I'm going to make it. I was never going to leave then, but I was just seeing if I could get closer because if I was getting closer, I was like, we'll paddle through the night. We'll keep going. But whilst I had sight of the island, I was like, I'm going to see if I actually can get any closer. So I put my head down and went for it. And after maybe another half an hour of like solid paddling, I sat up and the sun is just dropping behind this island. And I sat there and go, and it was so surreal, devastating, and just like, I felt anger for the first time because I was like, I'm going to die because I can't paddle to that. You know, I've spent my whole life surfing and paddling and doing like long distance running and things like that. It didn't seem that far away, but I couldn't get it. The currents were too strong. And I was like, I'm going to die because I can't get there. Like that was the biggest mind fuck. One of them, one of many. So I stopped, I turned around, paddled back to the boys.
Listen here, you fuckheads.
No. And Will was like, I thought you were going to leave. And I was like, no, I'm never going to leave. Just thought I might make it as well. So we stopped, sun's going down, getting dark. Second night. I was like, here we go, night 2. Fuck. And we don't have anything. We don't have anything to keep us above the water, and we don't have anything to keep us warm because we ditched everything.
The comfortable skin bottles at the bottom of the ocean.
Gone. Everything gone. Because we just ditched everything. We had some stuff with us when we first started paddling, but it would have just weighed us down. So we were as light as possible to get to the land. We didn't make the land. This was my fear leaving the stuff. So anyway, we come together. We're not going to keep paddling against the current. It will wear us out. Let's rest for a minute and then let's go with the current. Maybe there's land in the opposite direction, hopefully, being a bit optimistic there. So anyway, then we need to figure out a way to rest. And we do this little board configuration where we stack 2, put 1 down, and we could actually rest without our faces. Because one shortboard, you know, you can't rest your head. You're in the water. We're under the water pretty much.
Can't even float on a shortboard.
Yeah, they're small.
You must have been so sunburnt. Can we just talk about that?
No, it wasn't. The sunburn wasn't too bad at this. Like, yeah, but I had the little sperm suit on. So it's probably my nose and my lip were out. Yes, the lip copped it. But the sperm suit's long arms and stuff. And it's funny, hot in the day as soon as the sun goes down, because we'd been in the water for so long, our temperature, you know, the water's only probably 20-something degrees. The body is maybe almost 40 degrees. I don't know. Fact check me on that one.
Don't at us, guys, if Steph's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't write to me. I don't get.
Yeah. I don't like science. We're here for the stories. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Yeah.
We just care that she was bleeding.
Blood everywhere. Yeah. So basically, when you're in the water for that long, your body temperature is dropping. And 20 degrees, even though when you go for a swim on a sunny day and you're like, oh, the water's beautiful, when you're in it for that long, 20-something degrees becomes very cold very quickly. You know, when you're swimming for a long time, you're like, oh, it's getting cold now. Yeah. After 24 hours, it gets real cold.
Guess what?
Yeah, freezing. So after we rested for a minute, I was like, I can't, I'm too cold. We need to paddle, even if it's just to keep warm. So we're paddling along. And then after a few minutes, Will just goes, oh my fucking God, look at that. And I was like, what? What is that? And he is like, can't you guys see that? And anyway, he has a full-blown hallucination. He is seeing a silo, a staircase, some scaffolding, and it is clear as day to him. He can absolutely see it. It is there. Without a doubt. And then a minute later, I'm like scanning the darkness, just going, what? We just came from this direction. How is there a silo? And then Jordan goes, oh my God, I see it as well. So I was like, oh, it must be there. They've both seen it. Let's go. They're like, let's paddle. Boom.
To the silo.
To the silo. And they just paddle in complete opposite directions. And I was like, wait, guys, come back. Reel it in. Stop. I think you're tripping balls. Because Jordan was like, oh, no, I can see a mooring. And Will's like, I can see a scaffold. Can you not see that? And I was like, no, I hate to be the bearer of bad news right now, but I can't see a thing. So Will was so adamant. Jordan was he was a bit, you know, not as positive. And Will's like, can we just try? And I was like, absolutely, let's go. Let's paddle. So we paddled for like 20 minutes.
Anything, as always. Always, Steph.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Silo.
Strap in, guys. We're going to a silo.
So we start paddling.
To be honest, I don't even know what a silo is.
It's like a big thing that you keep wheat in.
Oh,
on a farm.
A like Turkish church.
Like a synagogue.
We're off to the church. We're praying.
So anyway, we start paddling for this church, the silo. And after a while, I was like, Will, and he sits up. He's like, is that seriously not there? Because it is clear as day to me. And I was like, it's not there. I'm really sorry. And he was like, oh my God, this is the gnarliest trip I've ever had. So that's when the hallucination started. And we had the whole second night was just laced with hallucinations. We rested again and I closed my eyes and mine came through with my eyes closed. So I guess can say I've dabbled in a bit of psychedelics in the past, and these were like...
We've done some makeup tutorials in the sand.
Yeah.
You might remember us from
The blog.
The blog. Steph and I blogged our mushroom trips when we were living on a boat.
Good fun. I wonder where they are. Dig them up from the vault. But anyway, I would close my eyes and it was just visions, eyes, entities, very like DMT-esque beings just looking at me. And they had this like look on their face like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, so they were all just like staring intently at me and I'd close my eyes and then I'd open my eyes and they'd still be there. So I was like, okay. And it was just like hundreds of eyes looking at me. I saw this like old sea woman who was just staring into my soul. And I was like, okay. And the visions, they were dark, but they weren't scary. It was like the essence of the ocean almost. If it was embodied, that's kind of what I was seeing when I would close my eyes. Very strange thoughts. So we started doing this whole paddle rest thing because we couldn't paddle too long because we were exhausted. We couldn't rest too long because we were freezing. So that was the second night, but by now the storm was gone. The ocean was glass and it was a beautiful night.
This is when we were connecting.
Yeah. And that's when we started seeing the meteorite shower. And it was the wildest, most intense meteorite shower I've ever seen. You could not look at the sky for longer than like less than a minute without seeing a massive shooting star go across. It was just like pew, pew, pew. So that was just wild. And the three of us were just sitting there saying, oh, and the phosphorescence, every paddle, way more intense than the second night, was like a circle of flames around your entire body. Every paddle was just like this glittering golden flame. So you can imagine we're tripping balls. We've got a meteorite shower going on. There's phosphorescence everywhere. I'm starting to see mermaids and all sorts of other things. The ocean's glass. It's a new moon. So like it's a starry night, no moon, dark. And by this stage, the second night was, I can't even begin to explain it. It was like we pierced the veil into a whole nother realm and reality. We were having shared hallucinations. We were like seeing all sorts of things and we were calm. You know, by this stage, there's no room for fear. You can't stay in an acute state of fear for that long. The boat was scary. I was scared. Once you're in the water and then when it's that drawn out, you're not scared anymore. You have fear bubble up, but then it simmers away. So I wasn't scared. And I think I'd just come to a place of peace. It was full surrender. And I was like, shit, if I'm going to die, I may as well die happy and like enjoying this night. And Will was just like, man, we weren't about to die. This might be the best night of our lives. People would pay good money for this. So that second night was wild. And a lot of crazy things happened that night. We could hear somebody yelling, which we didn't know was real. We were paddling for these lights and then they would vanish. We were paddling for a mountain and long story short, when we got closer, like it turned out to be clouds. So we weren't even paddling for this thing that we thought was a mountain. We were paddling for clouds. And
could you hear wildlife?
Yeah. So every so often you would hear this, like, you know, when a blowhole of a whale or a dolphin comes up next to you, you can just hear this big like boof, and that would be right near you. And we saw like just glowing like mats of, I don't know. I can't explain it. There's not words for what we saw that second night.
Just beauty.
It was stunning. It was like we were obviously...
Do you know I actually have FOMO? I was like, oh, I wish I was there with you.
I wish you were there too. You would have been a vibe.
We would have had a time.
Like, yeah, all four of us would have had a time. Would have been nice if Elliot was there too. It would have been, yeah, it would have been...
Did you ever think like there were sharks?
Elliot said he saw fins. I don't think he told us till afterwards. I know that area has been culled of sharks. So I didn't know that. Yeah, it's sad. I'm not going to lie. In moments I was grateful. But I also was like, look, if I'm going to be in a boat accident and then be eaten by a shark. Maybe it's my time. Maybe it's just, yeah. So I don't know.
As far as places go to be stuck in the ocean, that's a great place.
It's a good place. It wasn't that cold compared to even if you were off like the coast of Australia.
Oh, yeah, I won't go into this story, but I just want to say my dad had a similar accident in a canoe, and it was in the Bass Strait, and he was floating with no canoe.
Or did he lose his canoe?
Yeah, the storm took his canoe. Yeah, he was in a life jacket floating in the Bass Strait, which is the
How did they find
sharkiest.
him?
We won't go into that with my dad, but
That's a story for another time. Anyway, yeah. So that was the second night. Oh, we did have a funny shared hallucination that we had. We were paddling along and I started seeing this coral reef under us. I was like, guys, it's getting shallow. We're getting closer to the mountain. And we didn't want to get pulled to the side. Your thoughts are very strange when you're hallucinating and nothing, you don't know what's real. You don't know what's going on. But there was this really dark black hole over to the right of us in the horizon and a glow
sounds like my
over
asshole.
there. Yeah, exactly.
Asshole to the left, glow to the right.
So we didn't want to go towards this black ominous hole. It seemed very scary. We wanted to go towards the nice glowing lights over there. But the current was kind of dragging us that way. So we're like, oh, if we can swim down to this coral reef and tie off our leg ropes, it'll stop dragging us when we rest. So we were all three of us, and Jordan's there trying to dive down, and he's diving down trying to grab this coral reef, and he comes back up and he's like, damn it, I just missed it. Anyway, later we found out once we were rescued and on Richo's catamaran, he goes, so the water here is 550 meters deep. So we were all having this wild shared coral reef hallucination. And it was just when we found that out, we're like, okay. Embarrassing.
Again, I'm just here jealous of these experiences. I think they're so cool.
It was incredible.
Shared hallucination experiences. It's like a magical coral reef. It sounds magic.
Yeah. And so like what I was saying before, I've read about when the body releases DMT, right? So it's called the spirit molecule in some ways. And you endogenously release it when you are born, when you die, when you give birth, and when you have a near-death experience. So we're tripping so hard. I'm going, are we this close to death? Like, are we dying right now? We are obviously our bodies have been flooded with this DMT if we're all having these wild hallucinations and things like that. That was my thought process. I don't know if that's true at all, but so I'm like, are we dying? Because it was pretty unexplainable, these things. Or have we just gotten to a state in our subconscious where we have pierced the veil and we are just in another realm? I don't know.
If you write a book, you are writing a book, you should call it Pierce the Veil.
Oh,
something like that. That's quite cool because you said it about 3 times.
Can we take that? Can we buy that title now?
You own it, girlfriend. It came out of your mouth.
I like it. All right, cool. Food for thought.
Yeah, food for thought.
So anyway, let's sort of wrap up that night because I'm still paddling for this mountain. Again, I'm adamant that I'm going to make this mountain. It's always me on the big board, just like, we're going to make it.
ADHD Steph.
And going for it. And I feel like the sun's coming up behind me. This mountain range is in front of me. I paddle ahead of the boys again. I'm going hard. And then I just hear this, Steph, stop. And it's Will. And I was like, what? And he goes, that's the sun. And I thought it was a beach. I thought it was the base of the mountain, this sandy beach, this yellow, beautiful sandy beach, obviously tripping. And I sit up on my bottom like, no, it's not. It's the beach. Denial. And I'm sitting there staring at it and I'm just watching it and I'm just watching it change and watching the clouds light up. The clouds light up the mountain that is clouds and the sun starts rising and I just sit up and I just go, because I thought we'd made it. I thought we'd made land. Like it looked like a beach 1 kilometer away from us.
Was this the time where you just screamed?
I screamed. I just go, we've paddled all night and we think we're going to make it again. It's like, okay, so it was like we're in the Hunger Games. It was like the universe was testing us. It's going, oh, you want to live? How much do you want to live? Like, so it kept throwing us these tests and dangling these carrots in front of us. And with every test, it was like, nah, take it away from you. Try again. Like, how hard are you going to try? So, yeah, the sun's coming up, day 3. And I'm just like sitting there just going, fuck, damn it. Okay, cool. So the boys are a bit behind me because I've just taken off. And then I'm sitting on the board, stopped paddling, and I'm just looking around as the sun rises. And it's a beautiful day. There's not many clouds. And as the sun rises, you can see a few islands in either direction. We would never be able to paddle to them, not in the state we are in now. But it's clear the sun's coming up and it's calm. So the boys are like, they're a bit behind me. So they're yelling and they're like, Steph, we got to stop paddling. Today's the day. We're going to get rescued. So we were kind of like banking on just getting rescued now and just stopping, like keeping our energy. And then all the way in the distance, I see this little black dot and I can see some like little tiny arms. And I see these arms paddling and I'm like, oh my God, it's Elliot. And I'm like, and I'm screaming and screaming and screaming. And it gets closer. As it gets closer, I'm like, that doesn't look like Elliot. And I realize it's Artie. Artie, who we have not seen for 24 hours, and he's by himself. So I'm like, shit. And I'm like, Artie, come on. We're over here. It's all right. Noticing he's by himself. And this is hard. This is where I tear up. And he just goes like, my friend, he's dead. And he just like screamed, like you could just hear the grief. And I was just like, oh, fuck. Okay, it's all right, Artie, come, you're with us now. Like, we got you, you're with us. We're all together. So he's still paddling over. And I don't know if the boys heard that. And I sort of relay it back to them. I was like, it's Artie. He thinks one of them might be dead. Which was just so devastating. And then he's still paddling over to us. And then we hear this bop, 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 like an engine. And so we're looking in the sky for a plane. And then all the way on the horizon, we just see a boat. So we are, all 4 of us just waving and losing it, screaming. And Will just goes, they've seen us. And that's when I broke. I just like fell into the water and started crying. I went over to Will. I was so weak. I just like hugged him. And then this boat's just making a beeline for us. And we can see the 3 boys in the front. They're all going, yeah. And it was Benny and Ethan and Jacob, one of the surf guides. And they just came over and they just like pluck us out of the water, all 4 of us. And you can hear, a lot of people have probably seen this video where they're like, they're like, Elliot, thinking Artie, because he's still away, thinking Artie is Elliot. And I'm going, where's Elliot? And they're going, where's Elliot? And so in that moment, very bittersweet, I was like, wow, Elliot didn't make it. Because if they don't know where Elliot is, maybe he did, but, anything could have happened. Maybe there was no one on that island. Maybe there's a language barrier. Maybe he never made it. So I'm going, fuck, that's as beautiful as it is that we have been rescued. And the captain was on that boat, so that was amazing to see him again and give him a big hug. And we're all hugging and it was a beautiful, incredible moment, but there was bittersweet that Elliot and Fifan weren't found. So it's hard to celebrate in that moment. So I'm on that boat. That's actually, a lot of people don't know this side of the story, but we were rescued by Tinnis, the captain of the other boat that the 8 boys were on, and then we were taken to Richo. So Richo and Tinnis were the 2 boats out looking for us, and they were working in unison, and they were incredible.
Because Indonesian rescue team can't go at night, right?
They had plenty of excuses.
That's not allowed.
I don't know. I can't remember. I got to fact check a few things on these things. I just know my sort of story. And a bit of, so Richo was incredible. He was all the way over in, I think he was in Simalu, which might be
we were speaking to your auntie.
Yeah.
Who's got a catamaran, and she was speaking to Richo.
Yeah. So Richo, yeah.
And he's like a lord around there.
Yeah. Incredible. He gets to the island, and the boys on the island are incredible. They have orchestrated this full rescue.
Because they got to the island at 11 p.m.
Yeah. So.
And then they didn't know where you guys were.
They got to the island expecting us to be there with beers, being like, yeah, you guys got caught in the storm. But we weren't there. So they're like, shit. And we weren't at the mangroves either. So they started calling DFAT and, putting out, basically starting this rescue mission. And they were incredible, all of them.
At Comfortable in My Skin, we were posting everywhere being like, can anyone? And there was people that were, my partner works for the Australian Navy.
Yeah, everyone.
everyone was fucking doing everything they could.
Everything they could. Everybody was involved. Like, people are incredible when it comes
the
to it.
power of when all the people come
And
together.
the prayers. Like, I could feel the prayers. I feel like the prayers like brought us
Every
home.
single story I was putting out was like, pray for them, think for them, like, universe.
Yeah. So we'd been rescued. Richo had sailed overnight, you know, and come and gotten to the island, and the boys were there, and he was really impressed with their efforts. But he was like, what's being done? Who's looking for them? And I think it was only Tinnis out looking that first night. And then, you know, even the storm was too much for him in his little fishing boat at one point, or I'm not sure. But Richo gets there on the second afternoon, or like the afternoon, and goes, because he's had to sail so far, and goes, who's out looking for them? What are we doing about them? And he said the one thing, I think Mitch said this, he said the one thing that everybody was thinking but no one really wanted to say, and that was, they're in the water. Because I know those boats. There's no way they made it through that storm. They're in the water. We got to go right now. So some of the boys jumped on his boat, and then he worked in unison with Tinnis looking for us. So once we were rescued, we were then taken to Tinnis's boat. And we were taking a Richo's boat and put on that, and that's where I called my dad, and that was wild. And that was it.
We were having conversations the whole time, like every half an hour, me and your mum and dad. And we'd go from like...
You guys are bonded now.
Yeah. Oh, we've been fucking bonded forever. We were going through like, it's Steph to like, where she's like, we were so up and down. We were so up and down.
That's what I'm saying. It's the internal war inside your own head. There's two voices that are clashing. That you want to hang on to hope.
And I was calling every single dude I know that goes to Indo and surfs, and I was like, where are they? Where are they? What are the currents doing? What are the winds doing? And then I would call your mum back and be like, this is what Dean White said. He's a lifeguard. This is what this person said. And I was just like, yeah. So when your parents finally spoke to you, and oh my God, then your mum called me back. And then when I finally spoke to you when you were on the island.
Oh yeah, that phone call. And so much adrenaline.
And that's where I was in that Indigenous site that like nobody goes to. We were so lucky to have that Phil take us out there.
Yeah.
And that's where I was when I called you.
Yeah.
But do you know what? When you were found... your mum told me Elliot hadn't been found, just you.
And he hadn't.
No. Well, this is like
but the world didn't know.
The world didn't know.
Because he was picked up by a random.
But it was so weird because I sort of like I was so happy that you were found, but I didn't even cry. I was like, well, what about Elliot? Yeah. And then, and it was so strange because I couldn't feel like, obviously I was so fucking happy, but it was actually when your mum called me back and said that they found Elliot, that's when I lost it.
I'm the same. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's like, okay.
It's the exact same.
It's only half the story. Like, because I was banking on him being safe that whole night. When I was put onto that boat and knowing Elliot hadn't been found, I was sitting on that boat crying, just preparing myself for him to be dead, basically. Because he was so adamant on saving us and thinking that he was the only chance. I was like, he would have probably just paddled himself to death. And I won't go into Elliot's story. His story of that night alone, you know, us three, ours is wild, but him alone is just incredible. His hallucinations, his journey, his struggles. He's actually now going to be, since he's realised the strength of his own body and mind, he's now been, you know, catapulted onto this new trajectory on life, and he's doing this massive paddle. It's called the Molokai. I think it's a world championship or something, prone paddling, where you paddle from 52 kilometres across a big ocean strait from the island of Molokai in Hawaii to the island of Oahu. So he'll be doing that later in the year. So if you want to follow his story, it's,
head to his Instagram, Elliot Foot.
Yeah, Elliot Foot with an E on the end.
I go to all his breath works when I'm in Byron, and he is so amazing at coaching breath work and resilience and just teaching us how much strength we have inside.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I've come to realise, just to wrap it up. Elliot got rescued. That was the best moment ever. Now, obviously, Fee Farm was never found. So that is something I've struggled with, survivor's guilt. I have struggled with the pain and the grief of the loss and being with the Halaban village for a few days afterwards, we did an incredible send-off for Fifan. There was this rainbow that he must have sent down because it was just like this, I've got goosebumps. It was just this sunset and this rainbow when they're all down on the beach, you know, saying goodbye and just wishing him peace and, you know, a safe journey. Because, yeah, it wasn't looking good for him. But the village kept looking. No one really gave up.
His dad said he was going to search every single day.
Kept looking for him. But coming back to what I've learnt since then and what I've realised is, and what I want to really bring my book back to, not just my experience, but really, and this ties into comfort in my skin, like women's mental health is, when I tell my story, men are like really interested. They're really engaged. They want to know all the details and they're like, oh my goodness. But the women just go, wow, I would have died. And that's almost every single woman's first reaction is just saying, I couldn't have done that. And when I retell the story and I hear it, I'm like, wow, that probably would have been my belief as well. But we are stronger than we believe, and you don't just roll over and die. Like this warrior, I met somebody out in the water that I didn't know existed. And it's like you have this warrior deep within you who probably is dormant until, you know, you are in a time of need and they come through and you don't just roll over and die. Like you fight, and you fight because what's on the other end is death. So you fight until the bitter end and you give everything, and I think everything is so much more than people realize what they have. Like we are strong beyond belief, and I just want the girls to know that. You got it, sister. Yeah, so.
And what was the moment like when you saw Elliot?
Oh, my God. When I found out, so I was on the catamaran when I found out. Again, I was there with our Harry Fisher and he's like, they're there. And I'm sitting in like the hull and then I just hear this like uproar from the front of the boat. And I come like, oh my God, there's a whole nother period story, but that might have to go into another one. But I've got my period. I'm like bleeding into some man's board shorts because there was nothing on the boat. I gave him back and I was like, sorry, there's blood in there. There's nothing I can do about that. I was beyond caring. But I like waddle out onto the boat because I probably got a wad of toilet paper. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, Elliot's been found. And I was just like, oh. And then the catamaran delivers us back to the island and he's there and I just like run up and there's a video and I just like hug him, and that feeling, there's not words. There's not words to describe the fact that I was so sold on the thought on us dying, or one of us, like the four of us. I mean, someone died and I can't take away from that, but knowing just like my three friends survived is it's a blessing, and it is bittersweet. You can be happy and you can be sad at the same time. Like I've learned that I can't take away from the fact that I am grateful that these three people that are very special to me made it, and Artie and Iqbal as well. Artie's a dad, you know.
And you can also be sad that someone lost their life.
Absolutely. We are, multi-dimensional beings. We can feel more than one emotion at once.
Yeah, so you can be happy and sad at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my biggest takeaway is obviously I have this new leash on life. I feel so much gratitude. I've been given a second chance, and a lot of people don't get a second chance. So I tried and take that out into the world with me. I mean, last year was hard. This year's proving to be pretty fucking hard as well. But every time I get like, you know, pushed down or I feel like I'm down and out, I just tell myself like, you're alive and you are lucky to be alive. So it's really, really important to
treasure
gratitude. Yeah.
Treasure this life that we.
Yeah, this one precious life. You never know when it's going to be taken from you.
Tell your friends you love them.
Make it weird.
I love you, Steph.
I love you. Thanks. That was the first thing I've done. We have not told, unless it's like face-to-face with immediate friends and family. I haven't spoken about it.
Thank you for sharing it with Comfortable in My Skin.
Of course, girl. Of course. Thank you for listening.
Love you guys.
Love ya.
So I now want everyone to repeat after me. I am unique. I am worthy of pleasure. My body is mine. I am comfortable in my skin. And remember that I love you.